G'day! Congratulations on buying a KEAHANA EPS epoxy resin surfboard. KEAHANA surfboards are the most environmentally friendly surfboards available. They have lower toxins, all the wood come from renewable resources. So get into it, build yourself a board. KEAHANA surfboards. Glassing manual. Shaping tips. KEAHANA surfboards are stronger, lighter and slightly more buoyant than the traditional polyurethane boards. The increased buoyancy needs to be considered in the shaping process to achieve maximum performance. Overly buoyant epoxy surfboards can give the rider a feeling of corking on takeoff and reduced drive through turns. This buoyancy can easily be managed through the following methods. 1. Sharp edge. The sharp edge on the tail should continue to about 6 to 12 inches forwards in front of the side fins. That will give the board a better bite on the wave face. 2. Shaping down. KEAHANA EPS epoxy resin surfboards also allow for an overall reduction of up to 10% of the volume of the boards. This gives the boards a buoyancy property similar to traditional polyurethane boards, but with the superior weight, strength and performance of KEAHANA epoxy. Compressed air. We do not recommend that compressed air is used to remove the dust from the board unless a filter is fitted to avoid the release of oil and water, which will contaminate the board and react with the resin. Gloves. Always wear gloves to touch the board after the shaping is finished. The grease and uric acid from your fingers can react with the resin, causing delamination or a minor separation in the resin of the hot coat and gloss coat, known as fisheye. Temperature. We recommend that the glassing process is carried out in a room with a temperature greater than 25 degrees. Step 1. Primer coat. Tape up the stringer, making sure to press the tape hard. Mix the white KEAHANA paste. Apply the paste and clean up any runs on the rails. Take the tape off the stringer. Step 2. Primer coat for the bottom. Pot number 2. To apply the paste on the bottom, there is no need to wait for the paste on the deck to dry. Just place some clear plastic on the stand to avoid the paste sticking to it. By following the same procedures from step 1, tape up the stringer, making sure to press the tape hard. Mix the white KEAHANA paste with pot 2, primer coat bottom. Apply the paste and clean up any runs on the rails. Take the tape off the stringer. Let it dry at room temperature, preferably over 25 degrees. Sand the whole board using KEAHANA 80 grit sandpaper. Notes about the glassing process. When working in temperatures less than 25 degrees, we recommend that the resin sachet is warmed in a water bath set to 60 degrees, or by using a microwave for 30 seconds on high. Heat up just the resin sachet, not the hardener pot. Warming the resin makes it thinner and easier to work. The result will be a lighter surfboard without excess resin. With the resin being warmed, the curing process is faster and the glassing time is short, about 20 minutes. Therefore, only experienced glassers should warm the resin. The glassing process can be done in 2 different ways. Option 1, glass bottom, let it dry, sand the laps and glass deck. Option 2, glass bottom, let it gel, turn the board over and glass the deck straight away. Glassing the bottom. Option 1. Cut 1 layer of KEAHANA cloth, allowing 4 inches of overlap. Put the resin from the sachet into the hardener pot, labelled number 3, glassing bottom, and mix it up for 2 minutes, ensuring the entire pot is well mixed. Cut 3 pieces of cloth measuring 15 cm by 8 cm to use as reinforcement for the fins. Place them where the fins will be installed. Ensure that the KEAHANA logo, indicating repair with epoxy resin only, has been placed in a visible area, such as beside the fins, and not where it is likely to be covered by a tail pad or sticker. Wet out and stretch the cloth using the plastic spatula at a 45-degree angle. With the remaining 2/3 of resin, wet out the overlap. We recommend the use of a plastic shovel to help with this. Turn the overlap into the deck. Start from the middle of the board to the nose and then to the tail. Scrape all the excess resin out of the cloth, again using the spatula at a 45-degree angle with the stringer. Push the resin to the rails and around the overlap. Let the board dry. Sand the laps flat. Also sand around the rails and about 4 inches into the bottom to create a stronger bond between the dry resin on the bottom and the wet resin from the deck. This will avoid any future delamination. Option 2. It is very important that Step 3, glassing bottom, Step 4, glassing deck, and Step 5, hot coat deck, are executed sequentially and on the same day. To test when the glassing is getting to its gel point, touch the glassing with a clean finger. If the resin has gelled enough, there will be a fingerprint left on the glass. Do not allow the resin on the bottom to dry before you glass the deck. If the glassing on the bottom does dry out, it is necessary to follow option 1 and sand the overlap before glassing the deck to create a proper bond between the dry resin of the bottom and the wet resin of the deck. Wrap some plastic around the stand to prevent the bottom resin from sticking to the stand when glassing the deck. Glassing deck. Turn the board onto the deck. Cut the first deck layer of KEAHANA cloth, allowing 1 inch of overlap around 2/3 of the board. It should not overlap around the nose area to give it extra flex. Glass this first layer using pot number 4A, glassing deck. Pour half of the resin over the board and spread it well with the spatula. With the remaining half of the resin, wet out the overlap, using a plastic shovel to help with this process. Turn the overlap over the bottom of the board. Start from the middle of the board and carry on to the nose and tail. Place the logos over the wet first layer. Please include at least one KEAHANA logo, as these are a sign of quality to both surfboard manufacturers and riders alike. Cut the second layer of KEAHANA cloth, allowing a 3-inch overlap around the whole board. Glass the second layer using pot number 4B, glassing deck. Wet the cloths. Apply a bit of pressure with the spatula over the cloth to draw up the excess resin from the first layer. And turn the overlaps in the same way as for the first layer. Carefully remove any excess resin. Let the board rest at room temperature while you wait for the resin to reach its gel point. Test this by using the fingerprint test. At this stage, step number 5, hot coat deck, must be done. Hot coat deck. Mix the resin from the sachet with the hardener in pot number 5, hot coat deck. Mix it for 2 minutes, ensuring the entire pot is well mixed. Using a clean brush, spread the resin over the deck, leaving it flat and uniform. After every use, the brush must be cleaned with methylated spirits to remove any potential contaminants. The brush must be completely dry before being used. Let the board rest for at least 4 hours. Place the board in an oven set at 50 degrees Celsius for 6 hours.